The flickering flames of the campfire cast eerie shadows on the faces of the tribal elders, their eyes reflecting a mix of dread and reverence. The night was thick with the scent of burning wood and the whispers of ancient spirits. The village was nestled deep in the heart of the forest, a place where the modern world had not yet encroached and the old ways still held sway. The village shaman, Oren, sat at the center of the circle, his face painted with intricate patterns that told stories of gods and monsters. His voice, a deep, resonant echo, began to weave a tale that sent shivers down the spines of the gathered tribe. Many moons ago, Oren intoned, our ancestors faced a terror unlike any other. It was a time of famine, when the land refused to yield its bounty, and our people were starving. In desperation, they turned to the forbidden practices, invoking the spirits of the dark forest. As he spoke, the fire seemed to grow dimmer, the surrounding darkness pressing in. The tribe listened with bated breath, knowing well the story that was to follow but unable to resist the pull of the shaman's words. The Wendigo, Oren continued, is a creature of unspeakable horror, born from the darkest corners of the human soul. It is said that those who resort to cannibalism in times of dire need are cursed to become this monstrosity. The hunger of the Wendigo is insatiable, its thirst for flesh unending. The children huddled closer to their parents, eyes wide with fear. The elders exchanged uneasy glances, memories of old whispers resurfacing. They knew the legends were not mere stories, but warnings etched into their collective memory. It was during the coldest winter, Oren said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, that one of our own, driven mad by hunger, consumed the flesh of his kin. The transformation was swift and brutal. He became the Wendigo, a beast of nightmare, and he brought ruin upon our people. The fire crackled, sending sparks into the night sky. The villagers could almost hear the distant wails of those long-dead ancestors, their agony echoing through the ages. But the story does not end there, Oren said, his eyes narrowing. The Wendigo was not content with mere physical destruction. It sought to corrupt the very souls of our people, to drag them into its eternal torment. It is said that the curse of the Wendigo still lingers in this forest, waiting for the unwary to succumb to its vile influence. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves and adding to the sense of foreboding. Oren stood, raising his arms as if to ward off the evil spirits. We must remain vigilant, he declared. The Wendigo is always watching, always waiting. It feeds on our fear, our desperation. We must never forget the lessons of our ancestors. The tribe nodded solemnly, the gravity of the shaman's words sinking in. They knew that to survive, they must stay united, strong, and resolute. The night was far from over, and the forest was alive with unseen dangers. As the fire burned low, the villagers dispersed to their huts, each casting a wary glance over their shoulder. The tale of the Wendigo had done its work, instilling a deep sense of caution and fear. The shaman remained by the fire, his eyes scanning the darkness, as if expecting the Wendigo itself to emerge from the shadows. The next morning dawned cold and gray, a heavy mist hanging over the village. The sense of unease from the previous night had not dissipated. The villagers went about their tasks, but the usual chatter was subdued, the air thick with tension. Young Luca, a boy of about 12 summers, had always been fascinated by the tales of the Wendigo. Despite the warnings, his curiosity was piqued. Determined to prove his bravery, he decided to venture into the forest alone, to see if the legends were true. With a small pack of supplies and a knife for protection, Luca slipped away from the village unnoticed. The forest loomed before him, dark and silent. He felt a chill run down his spine but pressed on, determined to find evidence of the Wendigo. Hours passed as he wandered deeper into the woods. The trees grew thicker, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out the sun. The further he went, the more the forest seemed to close in around him. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, and shadows seemed to move just out of sight. As dusk approached, Luca found himself in a part of the forest he did not recognize. The trees here were ancient, their gnarled roots twisting through the underbrush like serpents. The air was heavy with the scent of decay. He stumbled upon a clearing, in the center of which stood an old, crumbling stone altar. Curiosity overtook his fear, and he approached the altar. It was covered in strange symbols, worn away by time, but still faintly visible. He reached out to touch one of the carvings, and as his fingers brushed the stone, a sudden, chilling breeze swept through the clearing. The shadows lengthened, and Luca felt a presence behind him. He turned slowly, heart pounding, to see a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. It was tall and gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through him. The Wendigo. Luca's scream was cut short as the creature lunged. He tried to run, but the Wendigo was upon him in an instant. Its claws raked his flesh, and he felt a cold, overwhelming darkness envelop him. Back at the village, the shaman sensed the disturbance. He gathered the warriors and led them into the forest, following the trail Luca had left. They arrived at the clearing to find the boy lying motionless by the altar, his eyes wide with terror, his body cold and lifeless. Orin knelt beside the boy, murmuring a prayer. "The curse of the Wendigo is real," he said gravely, "and it has claimed another victim." The villagers returned to the village, carrying Luca's body. The mood was somber, the sense of dread palpable. They knew the Wendigo was not just a story, but a very real threat. The shaman's warnings had been true, and the curse had been awakened once more. As the days turned to weeks, the village was plagued by strange occurrences. Livestock disappeared, shadows moved in the corners of their vision, and an oppressive sense of fear hung over them. The Wendigo's presence was felt everywhere, an unseen specter haunting their every step. One night, as the village slept, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. The villagers rushed to the source of the sound, finding one of their own, a young woman named Tala, standing at the edge of the forest. Her eyes were wide with terror, her body trembling. "It came for me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "The Wendigo. It called my name." The shaman approached her, his face grave. "We must act quickly," he said. "The Wendigo is growing bolder. It is feeding on our fear." Orin gathered the elders and the warriors, and together they devised a plan. They would venture into the heart of the forest, to the place where the Wendigo dwelled, and put an end to the curse once and for all. Armed with torches, weapons, and the sacred symbols of protection, the group set out. The journey was treacherous, the forest seeming to conspire against them at every turn. The trees closed in, and strange, eerie sounds echoed around them. As they neared the ancient altar, the sense of foreboding grew. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. The Wendigo was close. They reached the clearing, the altar looming before them. Orin stepped forward, chanting an incantation to ward off the evil spirits. The warriors formed a protective circle, their weapons ready. From the darkness, the Wendigo emerged. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and its form was twisted and grotesque. The creature let out a chilling howl, a sound that pierced their very souls. The battle was fierce and desperate. The Wendigo moved with unnatural speed, its claws slashing through the air. The warriors fought bravely, but the creature's strength was overwhelming. Orin, standing at the center of the circle, continued his incantation, calling upon the spirits of their ancestors for aid. The air crackled with energy, and the symbols on the altar began to glow. With a final, desperate effort, Orin raised his staff and struck the altar. A blinding light erupted, engulfing the clearing. The Wendigo let out a howl of agony, its form dissolving into the light. When the light faded, the clearing was silent. The Wendigo was gone, and the oppressive darkness had lifted. The villagers stood in awe, the weight of the curse finally lifted from their shoulders. Orin turned to his people, a weary smile on his face. "The Wendigo is no more," he said. "Our ancestors have heard our plea and delivered us from this evil." The villagers returned to their homes, the sense of dread replaced by relief and hope. They knew the forest still held many dangers, but the curse of the Wendigo had been broken.